welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Keep up with everything at tarpley.net. But just to round out some of these 9/11 drills, again, we're way beyond the unanswered questions. It's clear how this was done. Not exactly clear who individually did it, but the general outlines are absolutely clear. The nuclear missile launch option, if somebody tells you stop what you're doing, like Russia or maybe even China, you've got a Stratcom red team bad insider with access to a key command and control system inside this computer network attack drill at Stratcom. How about the attack on Afghanistan? You've got Unified Vision 2001, Combined Operations for Global War on Terror and Afghanistan Attack. Couple of interesting quotes here. Designed to prepare for a global deployment into a landlocked country with hostile terrain and a lack of basing agreements with neighboring countries for U.S. access. Gee, that sounds like Afghanistan. And a spokesman for this, a guy called Ozolek, assistant director of the exercise, said, the threat we portrayed was an unstable and hostile state, but the primary enemy was not the state itself, but a transnational actor based out of that area, globally connected, capable, and willing to conduct terrorist attacks on the U.S. as part of a campaign. And then he says, the reporter says, these real events are similar to Unified Vision. And Ozolek says, yes, Nostradamus could not have nailed the first battle of the next war any closer than we did. We got it right this time. They've also got AWACS airplanes flying around. Is this a Committee of Public Safety, a government waiting in the wings? You've got AWACS sent over Washington, D.C. and Florida by this renegade rogue General Larry Arnold. And you've got Brent Scowcroft in a doomsday aircraft flying over Nebraska. Warren Buffett and other business leaders are present at Offwood Air Force Base. Is that a Committee of Public Safety in case Bush and Cheney somehow don't make it in the event? Now, Angel is next, the absolute key to the entire thing, totally neglected by most of these so-called authorities. Angel is next is when the invisible government speaks. This basically says to Bush, do what we tell you or you're next. And Cheney can take over, or if not, you can get this combination of Brent Scowcroft and Warren Buffett could be the plausible nucleus of some kind of Committee of Public Safety. So you've got doomsday looking glass aircraft in the context of Global Guardian. Continuity of government is activated, and the whole thing is drilled even down to the level of those telephone calls, which were so important to sell this to the little people. You had to have first-person reports of telephone calls, heartrending, but all of them somehow not quite adding up, as many have pointed to. This was a drill done at the Department of Transportation back in May. U.S. Department of Transportation hijacking exercise, August 31st, 2001. Scenario involves hijacked planes and terrorist and cell phone calls to the DOT Crisis Management Center. And then one spokeswoman for this says, during the exercise, part of the scenario, interestingly enough, involved a potentially hijacked plane and someone calling on a cell phone, among other aspects of the scenario that were very strange when 12 days later, as you know, we had the actual event. So what's the big mystery? This is how it was done. There are no unanswered questions. If you want to know exact details, then you have the work of Professor Stephen Jones, thermite, nanothermite, the rest of that, technically how it's done. So the political side, institutional side is covered, the technical side is covered. What's the big deal? This movement essentially went astray through the lack of response to the Kennebunkport warning, because one thing is what happened, and the other thing is no new 9/11, and that's what the hijacking of the Rogue B-52 was, and that had been called, I think, with remarkable prescience by the Kennebunkport warning, and people who focused on the soap opera aspects around the Kennebunkport warning indicated that they had basically taken themselves out of world history. So that's one of the reasons why this gullibility is still there. Now, just a couple of quick notes before we wrap up. Next week, we've got September 14th, the primary here in Washington, D.C. Watch the fate of Mayor Adrian Fenty and his sidekick, Michelle Rhee, the union buster who's been firing 200 or 300 Washington, D.C. teachers every year whenever she can. It's likely that they're going to be voted out. And I wanted to point to this because you're seeing now the emergence of the reactionary strategy behind these babbling ideologues of the Tea Party, funded by the Koch family, or Koch, K-O-C-H, Koch. You've got a whole strategy to destroy the middle class in the United States. For example, here we go with the Washington Examiner, September 5th of this year. Michael Barone, reactionary Fox News kind of guy, says, the story of Strayer College and the University of Phoenix, the for-profit educational world, is a higher education bubble, and it's poised to burst. And the idea is that you, the masses, are uppity. The GI Bill has somehow given the American middle class the idea that they have a right to go to college. Well, the reactionaries and the rich elitists have decided that we've had that for too long. We can't afford that anymore. And we learned from Michael Barone. My colleague, he writes, at the American Enterprise Institute, the nest of neocons, my colleague Charles Murray, and this is, of course, the racist, right, the bell curve race baiter, Charles Murray has called for the abolition of college for almost all students. Hey, Charles Murray, reactionary ideologue at the American Enterprise Institute. Right, this is the money stolen by Lord Conrad Black with Liz Cheney and Cheney's wife there, Lynn Cheney, Ledeen, and all these other people on the payroll. Charles Murray of the American Enterprise Institute has called for the abolition of college for almost all students. Save it for genuine scholars and let others qualify for jobs by standardized national tests as accountants already do. Isn't that interesting? That's the future they have for you. You can see what it is. Bust the teachers' union. Once you've busted the teachers' union, you can proceed to the demolition of most of free universal compulsory public education, which we've had since the Northwest Ordinance, even under the Articles of Confederation, since the work of Horace Mann in Massachusetts. Wreck that, and then get ready to roll back the GI Bill, make college something for the rich elitists and no longer for the broad middle class. At the time when everybody else in the world is making progress along these lines, the bankrupt reactionary U.S. elite is saying, no, we don't want to pay for it. We don't want to be taxed for it. We're not going to do it. And, of course, the Washington Post joining in. Here we have the Washington Post style section, Friday, September 10th, today. Is college overrated? A whole thing, front page of the style section. Sarah Kaufman writes, some families turn away from higher education in favor of real-life lessons. And here they have a photograph of the mortarboards, right, the kids getting ready to graduate. One of them earned an MFA but will still work in a coffee shop. Another one envies his brother, the plumber. Another one will pay off college loans at the age of 62. Another one will never see Paris. Yet another will only ever write as a hobby. Would have been a great chef. Really should have dropped out. Doesn't like microbiology after all. $150,000 law degree now worthless. Get the idea? The middle class can't pay $200,000 in tuition, room, and board, and that's coming to an end. So look what we've got. The New Deal in the form of the GI Bill. In other words, what you got for defeating Hitler. You get a right to go to college. You get a right to own a home. College, forget college, and now that FHA, Fannie, Freddie are on the rocks, forget about your right to own a home. You're headed for immiseration. That's what the reactionaries want for you. And if you don't want to go into that, then you better fight. Fight those reactionaries. Fight Wall Street. Fight the Koch family. Fight these melon scave types who are running the Tea Party and manipulating the American people. And we'll be back next week on World Crisis Radio.